Hi and welcome. We're going to start letting everyone in here, and I am putting into the chat what we're going to be covering today. So we're going to wait a few minutes and let others get registered, and then we will get going. We are recording this, and we'll send a copy of the recording along with the handouts, and we'll be sending those out tomorrow. So I'll send that out to everyone. So, Matt, welcome. Happy Tuesday. Happy New Year 2025. I'm excited about starting this session. And for those of you who are joining us, my name is Ginger Bell, and I have with me Matt Coles, who's the National Sales Manager for First Funding. So welcome, Matt.
Hey, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, wherever in the world you are. Very good to see everybody. And it has been a good year so far. Ginger, I think a lot of positive energy in the room. A lot of people are excited about the year ahead. So, very much looking forward to it.
Perfect. So we're going to go ahead and dive in. Again, we are recording. I'm going to periodically add the files as we have other new people joining us, so that they can grab those in the chat. So if you want to do that and grab it in the chat, you can do that. And today we're going to be diving into the strategies to enhance your business planning skills. And we thought it'd be a good thing to start out in 2025, to be able to focus on helping to build that really sustainable growth and do that by giving you some actionable steps. So we want to thank you for joining. So our workshop today, our webinar is structured to give you an overview of key business planning elements. And so when Matt and I talked about this, and we really said, okay, we're going to do one in January. And when we started putting the material together, it's like, Matt, there's a lot that goes into business planning. And I think for a lot of people, we have a lot of new business owners that are coming into the market now. And so having that idea as far as, creating that business plan is important right now, right?
Yeah, there not only is it important for a business, it's also important for an individual to put together something, right? And if you can model your career about putting together a business plan for your own career, definitely encourage you to do that as well. It applies, right? What's your mission statement? What's your core values? Everything that you do for your living is going to be applied much like it's a business, and especially when, I'm on the sales side. So I almost look at my business as my sales company as my own business. So
100%.
you
And
might,
it is. I mean, it's,
yeah. So you want to build it out as such and make sure that you're never navigating too far away from what your goals and your missions are. One of the things that I've always asked people, Ginger, in my all my years in mortgage, but especially in the last year with First Funding, is when people move from broker to banker or their current correspondent and they say that they have a goal of hiring, right? Everyone always says they want to add LOs or add staff.
Mhm,
My number one question I always ask is, why would anyone join your company?
mhm.
Okay. What is the reason why you're interviewing somebody? Why do they say yes to you and no to maybe if they're looking somewhere else, right?
Yeah,
And it's the people and it's the business owners and it's the individuals with business plans and a clear identification of who they are, and what they bring to the table that has the best answer. Oftentimes it's, oh, I don't know, I have good rates. Well, that's not good enough, right? And
right.
so having a game plan like we're putting together here is very, very important, especially if you are looking to grow your organization in the year ahead.
Exactly. And so that's our goal. So we're going to do this every month. We're going to have a webinar. We're going to probably move it around because I know, Matt, you travel a lot. And so look for that. We'll send that to you as far as registration. We do always record these. And so we'll be recording those and we're going to put them into First Funding You. So if you are an existing customer, you have access to that. For those of you who are joining us who may not be a First Funding customer, it's an opportunity for you to talk to Matt, find out, talk to the account executive on his team, to find out about how to do business with First Funding. So for those of you who are joining us who may not be doing that, it's an opportunity for that. But let's go ahead and dive in. And what I want to do, Matt, is to start off with what we're doing. So the planner, so there's a business building planner that I've put in the chat. So you can download that. And each one of these sections are important. And it's interesting, and I don't know if you knew this, but businesses with a clear and documented plan are 30% more likely to achieve their goals than those without. And whether you're an individual LO, where you're a regional manager, a business owner, having an idea about who you are and that plan makes a difference. And studies consistently show that individuals and companies that take the time to define their mission, their goals, and their strategies are not only more successful, but they're also better equipped to navigate through a changing market. And so understanding your company is really the cornerstone of effective business planning. And it's more than just the numbers. It's like we go through the numbers, you go through that. We're not talking about just numbers here. It's about knowing your values. It's about knowing your strengths. And it's a completely different dynamic of what we're talking about, especially in an evolving market and a changing market. And this clarity, when you have this, it helps you to adapt and it helps you to seize new opportunities and to stay ahead of the competition. And so we have these key sections. There's 6 different sections in this guide that cover the process. And so really, when you're looking at business planning, it's getting into 6 key sections. So the first is your mission, your vision, your core values. That is the foundation. That builds who you are. When you're talking about recruiting, Matt, I mean, it's not just about the rate. It's about who you are. And that's what people are looking for. The second area is getting into your target goals and objectives and having to do with not just sales, but, who your customer is, things like that. And then the third is your branding and your positioning. So what does that look like? What are you doing? What are you planning for that? The fourth area we're going to talk about is your ideal client profile. So really diving into who do they look like, not just for clients, but for your business partners as well. The fifth area is going to talk about market strategies and implementation and how to do that. And then the sixth, we're going to bring everything together and it's our milestone timeline and review. So each section will provide clarity and direction for your business. And so just to give you an idea, this is what the handout looks like. And so you can print this off and fill that out. It's a PDF, so it can become a fillable PDF. So if you do want to work in this, Matt, you can as well. And so the first section, and we'll talk about homework for the next session, will be just this, that's section 1. So getting into the mission statements, right? And so each month we'll focus on one of these sections in detail. And again, this is one of those, we can do an overview, but we really want to dive into this. And our goal in doing this is to really provide you with that insight, discussion as well. This is a smaller group. We're not talking about, this is a meeting. You guys can have discussion. You can open it up to questions. We really want it to be a part of how can we help you in defining your business plan and what that looks like, right?
So, Ginger, I think one of the things that happens oftentimes is I sit down at the beginning of the year and salespeople or anyone really says, what are my goals for the year? Okay. And then what is it? The second Friday of every year, everyone's goals go by the wayside.
Yeah. We've already passed that date.
Yeah. So, it's really important that you give yourself the liberty to adjust your business profile, right? And what I mean by that is in 2020, if your ideal client was somebody who was looking to do a rate and term refinance because they had a rate starting with 5 and a 40% loan to value and a 740 credit score, and if you didn't change that in 2022, 2023, 2024, you haven't been having a very good time, right? So you give yourself the liberty to be able to adjust. One of the things that I always tell people is, listen, look at this on a quarterly basis to reevaluate to make sure you're still on the same track with the market conditions, what's happening around you. You can't be tunnel vision things do impact our business and or your business, you can't have tunnel vision. What shouldn't change, right? Your core values, your mission statement, everything that goes along with that. But your goals, maybe even your strategy, maybe even your ideal client, or how you're branding yourself, all has the elasticity to be able to change. And that's okay. You don't have to be so stringent in your plan that you set forward.
Exactly. So, in the chat, if you can type in the chat, I don't think we have the Q&A on this one. We just have the chat. And let us know where you're at with your business planning, because you mentioned, Matt, the goals and goals. We're not just talking about goals here. We're talking about planning. So it's not just a matter of where are you at in your business planning. And if you can type in the chat, let us know where you're at. Have you started? Do you have it done? Do you're here obviously to be able to have some help with that. So let us know where you're at, because I think that's important, Matt, is to know where our audience is and where we can help. And that was the whole idea in putting this together, is really to be able to provide you with that. So think about, and you can type that in there. But really, business planning, as you said, it provides that clarity on your mission and your vision. It establishes those goals and it ties those goals together. And then the biggest thing is it helps you to define those opportunities, maybe things that you haven't looked at before, and it gives you that roadmap to be able to reach those goals. So beginning with section 1, which is your mission, your vision, and your core values. And oftentimes we don't put this into our goal setting. We don't put this into our planning, but your mission, your vision, those core values define your company's purpose and your direction. And so that's the base. It builds that foundation for decision making. It also, from a recruiting standpoint, inspires trust. And when you combine it along with your brand, it provides consistency, not just for you in your mind, but for your team and for your customers. And so building those core values are very important. And then the next section, so target goals and objectives. And I know this is a key area for you, Matt. And so setting those measurable directions is essential. And the goals, they not only track the key areas like your revenue and your sales, but also your growth. And where are you growing? Because there's ways to measure in terms of growth that may not necessarily, especially right now in this market, it may not be measurable in terms of sales. You may be looking at, you want to build into a builder database. And so that could be goals. That may not have a direct impact on your sales right now, right? Setting
I
up
think in
vision.
this section, Ginger, I think one of the things that most people that I experience with, I've managed, I don't know, 70, 80 salespeople in my past, right? They struggle with the how am I going to measure success? What is define what the success looks like to you, and then work backwards to what are the actionable steps that you're going to take to do that, and how do we measure that together? I think it's really important that whatever your goal is, that you have milestones throughout the process. I know that we talk about this quite a bit, right? If I set a goal today and I have a goal for the end of first quarter to do something, I can't wait till March 29th to check in on the progress of my goal, right? So making sure that you have those flagship check-in points to make sure that you're progressing. And again, it's okay to adjust if you need to. Just make sure that you're adjusting because, hey, something's not working, or maybe that you just want to try a different avenue. You ran into maybe a roadblock here. That's okay. Don't wait too long before you shift your focus to try to figure out a different way to go about it. The measurable piece, Ginger, is one of the things that I see salespeople struggle with the most, which is essentially the idea of I want to increase my business 60%, right? That was an actual goal that I received at the beginning of the year. And I said, well, that's great. The market is only supposed to expand 40%.
Right,
So how are you going to make sure it's reasonable? That's the
right.
thing, right? And achievable business goals.
Yeah.
Um, achievable is the thing that I think a lot of people struggle with, which is, yeah, everyone should be shooting for the moon, but we don't want to be downtrodden when we accomplish some greatness, right? And
Right.
so if you have greatness, let's just make sure that we're achieving it and you're setting it forward and you're progressing towards that way.
Absolutely. So I have a question. It's a direct question that someone had typed in, Ryan, and it's a little bit off from what we're talking about in branding, but he's looking to whether the next step to be correspondent lending is worth it. And Ryan, you need some information on what that actually entails. We're not going to go through that on this, but Matt can definitely reach out with you and walk through that. But I think, Matt, we've seen that for a long time, and we're seeing that in this market. So for those of you who are joining us who have gone and become an independent mortgage broker, and now you're looking at, hey, is it worth it to become, correspondent lending and what that looks like? That's one of those things that ties in with those target goals and objectives, right?
Yeah, I mean, is it worth it is a broad question. I can't answer that for anybody. I don't, it's up to every individual to determine if it's worth it. I can tell you the pros and the cons and as I see it,
Right.
but ultimately, again, it goes back to where I started off, right? Is it worth it? If your goal is to add staff and add producing LOs and to, take a little bit more control, then it could be worth it. But you better have a good idea of what your vision is, what your values are, and how you are planning on getting there. That's what ultimately what we're talking about today.
Exactly. And so with that, your vision, your values, your goals, the next, and this is a great opportunity for correspondence because it's your branding and your positioning. Branding is about articulating what makes you and your business unique. And so in this section, when we get to this, we'll focus on defining your brand's tone, your look, and your feel, and building a consistent and recognizable identity that resonates with your target audience. Branding is everything. And especially in this market, because you want to be that top of mind, not with rate. It's not about rate, but it's about who you are. And it goes back to those values, helping customers, whatever that is. So that branding and positioning is very important.
Yeah, not only that, I mean, again, just sitting in my position, right? I came over, I joined First Funding at the beginning of 2024. And if you were to look at the messaging that First Funding was putting together from 2018 to 2023, I know it sounds so simple, right? But we had different logos on different thing, different, font, different, everything just had a different look. It looked like nine different pieces from nine different companies of
Mhm.
branding, essentially, right? And so really one of the things that we focused on very much so in the first year that I've been here is let's make sure that the look and the feel of everything that we're doing is consistent across the board. If you have a small organization, it's not that hard. The bigger you get, the more you have to bring that together to make sure it's very consistent and looks the same. When someone looks at our branding or our logo or whatever it might be, I want them to have the same feeling that they had when they first saw it. Who is that company? I know who that company is. What do they represent? What do they do? That's a very important thing. And it's the power of the mind, right? If you
Right.
put nine different things out there, it's going to not connect with anybody. That's ultimately what it is, right? Nine different things doesn't connect with anybody if you can be consistent with it and how you want to speak to it, right? And one of the things I always talked about with branding and positioning is just be truthful to whoever you are, right? If you like dogs and you want to throw a dog into your logo, have at it.
Yep.
Don't put a dog into you if you never wanted a dog and you don't like dogs or whatever it might be, right? Just make sure that you are have some positivity and some truthfulness behind your brand and your positioning as you see fit.
Right. Yeah, so this is a great section that we'll work on. And for those of you who are joining us, I know we've got a couple of people who have jumped on late. I am putting into the chat our planning guide, which is what we're going to be covering. And every month we're going to meet, we're going to work on each section and really do a deep dive into that and fill that out with you. And then I do have the slide deck as well, so I'm sending that. So the next section is Understanding your target audience, and this is crucial. And so, by tailoring your market, which we talked about, your marketing services to their needs, you can develop the strategies to not only attract but retain these ideal clients. And this is about creating those lasting relationships. Every single transaction is a relationship, a long-term relationship. And so understanding your ideal client. And you have many clients. So you have the opportunity obviously with your clients that you're doing loans with. You have your opportunities with your clients for your business partners as well. So those are the things that we'll also look at. And then marketing strategies and implementation. So there's one thing, and Matt, you talked about this branding. Branding is the look, branding is that consistency, and then pulling in your ideal client. So once we have that, then your next step is to build that marketing strategy and implementation, right?
Yeah, there's so many different ways that you can do this. And I've oftentimes, especially for smaller business owners, I've always said, well, why don't you lean on your account executives or your referral partners at some of the investors you work with? They are mega marketing machines, right? They have marketing departments. As you as a individual business owner, maybe it's you and five people, you probably don't have that marketing power behind you. It's okay for you to reach out and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking about for marketing. Where are you guys doing your marketing? What is possible? If you don't share the information and gather information from everyone that you're working with about how they're doing things. And the other thing that I always tell people is pick out somebody that you admire and ask them how they're doing it. And I think that's one of the underused things, especially in our industry. We tend to be mortgage people tend to be lone wolves, essentially, right? Like, I'm going to do this myself, and it's a very proud thing that we all do. We all have tremendous accomplishments working, in our individual silos. But if you see somebody that's on your Instagram feed constantly, how are they doing it? Feel free to reach out to them and ask. I guarantee they would love to share that information with you.
And there's so many different channels. So, you have to find what's right with you. But I can tell you the biggest is to have a strategy, first of all, and then to start implementing from those strategies. So start with one. Social media obviously is one channel, but that's only one. YouTube, that's a whole nother opportunity there. Podcasts, and I know you do a podcast as well. Look at those different strategies to be able to create those opportunities and think outside the box. Markets like this, it's funny, I was having a conversation, Matt, yesterday with regional manager. I'm in Oregon. She's in Washington. And I was at her office and I love tough markets because that's when I build my business. And so having that mindset and thinking about what you can do in terms of your marketing and having that strategy and not just doing the strategy, but what does the execution look like? What is the implementation? And I love leaning on your wholesale account executives. And a lot of wholesale companies already have material available. But take it one step further. So if you have a wholesale company that has flyers available for you, so maybe you want to take that flyer and make a video about it, right? So instead of just posting that out there and checking, I have checked the box, insert yourself into that as well. And you become a part of that brand and that marketing. So that's one of the things that we'll do in this section here. And then the next is establishing those milestones, having an idea as far as the dates. Matt, you talked about, the goal setting date. I think it's actually January 11th. People set, goals used to be called, resolutions. We don't have to say, I like goals better. But I think it's January 11th. Or the second Friday. It's like people have already abandoned them. So having an idea on the milestones and having a clear idea as far as the timelines ensures you stay on track. And so, one of the things we'll talk about in this section is monitoring your progress and then adapting to strategy. So, maybe something worked, maybe something didn't work, maybe you need to make a change. And so doing that and celebrating those successes, you talked about making that, if you make that, wild, audacious goal, that's like way out there, that's great. But have those milestones to reaching that goal, have a timeline to reaching that, and then celebrate those milestones. And especially if you are a business owner and you're building this with your team, having your team involved with that is very important. And I know you do that with your team, Matt.
Yeah, so we actually, here's a perfect example of having milestones and having goals and timelines set to review, right? So in July of 2024, we were progressing. Rates were, relatively high, or higher than they were at the tail end of my story here. And so we were setting up for the second half of 2024, basically saying, hey, it's going to continue to be a challenging interest rate market, and it's going to be continue to be driven by purchase volume. Well, RIP to the refinance boom that we had from like September 14th to October 18th. We had like 40 days of refinances, right? And if you look back at that time when I sat with the sales team post refinance activity, of course they all smashed their goals, right? They smashed them based upon the fact that we had a little bit of a boom right in the middle of an unexpected boom right in the
Yes.
middle of the activity. So the point being is an effective manager, an effective person like myself, I should have seen that, say, hey, by the way, we need to adjust
Mhm.
before, and let's just make sure that we're achieving what we want to accomplish based upon this good luck that we've received, right? So while you're looking at it, the reason why you have milestones is not only to make sure that you're tracking towards them, it's also to adjust for any outside influence that you weren't expecting. Okay. And so it's very important for everybody on this call or anyone who's going to be watching this video. If you don't have the milestones, you're not going to be able to celebrate and actually say, oh, wow, I really did well in this market without those milestones, right? And you're going to have to adjust to those. And so it's a very important feature of goal setting while you're going through it. Milestones and the timelines that you're trying to achieve them, and make sure that they're measurable, right? And I know that we talk about this. I see number 3 on this. I'm a very big believer of celebrating success.
Mhm.
And so anyone who sets out to achieve something, when you do achieve it, it's a fantastic way for you to take a minute, pat yourself on the back and say, that is a great accomplishment. How do I go bigger and better next time around?
Yeah. And this can relate to so many different things. We always think about goals as far as the financial side of it, right? But you can have goals. I know, and I started out in the business as an account executive, had absolutely no business. I didn't receive anything. And so my whole goal was to build a territory. And so Friday was my day. I would go out, and my goal was to get into 10 offices. And that was a goal. And when I did that, I would celebrate that. Maybe it was getting something as simple as an ice cream cone or, a cup of coffee at Starbucks, whatever. But having that idea to where you have that mindset, first of all, it keeps you focused on that goal. So having that and having the idea as far as the end is good, which I'm going to take us into the next and the power of goal setting. And so when you're setting these goals, no matter what it is, and don't just make those goals based on that financial side of it. Make those goals on maybe how many phone calls you're making to your real estate partners. If you're recruiting, how many possible, individuals you're looking at or you're having a conversation with. So a lot of different areas you can make those goals. But when you're making the goals, goal setting, it helps break down those long term visions and it puts them into actionable steps. And so using that, and you talked about this a little bit, Matt, SMART goals. So SMART goals are specific, measurable, achievable, and relevant, and then time bound. And so in order to have a goal, you have to have that end date. When do you want to accomplish it by? And that is, I think, it's like, well, I want to be able to do this year. Okay, well, then let's back into it and say, okay, in order to reach this goal, if it's, 40% growth, what are the things that you need to do in order to do that? And that's important to be able to do that. And then you can build that momentum by tracking it. And then by celebrating those small wins, helps you to stay aligned with your mission, right?
It's I got a funny story about myself is the use of SMART goals is based upon your own experience, right? So I wrote down some goals at the beginning of the year. I wrote that I wanted to read 75 books by the end of the year.
Ah,
I haven't read a book since college.
Right.
So I
Obviously.
looked at it and I said, you know what? How about I start off with I want to read 25 books this year,
there you go.
right? Let's make it achievable for
Yeah.
myself so I can feel like I have a win, right? And
Right.
so and then it's easy to back into the number. If you back into the number of, hey, 52 weeks in a year, 25 books. If I can read two books, or half a book a week or one book every 2 weeks, then I'm going to track it, right? And that's what you're talking about with SMART goals.
Yeah.
And so here we are, second week or third week of January. I finished a book, so I'm tracking, right? And so it's one of those things like I talk about. You don't have to shoot for the moon. Be reasonable with what your expectations are,
Yeah.
so that way that you can celebrate that success when it does happen.
Absolutely, 100%. Okay, so I love the goal of reading. And for those of you on this call, you may not know. So Matt was an author in a book that we did last year. In October, we published it, and it's called Leadership Matters. And so I love the fact that you have that goal setting. That's a great book to start with, Matt, right there. And in fact, I'm going to do this for those of you who are on right now. If you can type into the chat a book you're reading right now, and then I'll get in touch with you. I'm going to mail you a copy of Matt's book, Leadership Matters. He wrote it with several other authors. But if you're reading a book right now, Matt's needing 25 books to read. So type in the chat. For anyone who's reading a book right now, type in a chat. I'm going to send you a copy of Matt's book. I'll mail it to you, Leadership Matters. But let me know what book you're reading and make a suggestion on what book Matt might be able to read. We'll see if anybody actually takes us up on this.
I appreciate that, Ginger. Thank you very much. Just no science fiction. I'm not into the science fiction genre.
Well, and there's so many, just and I don't know if you've read this book or not, maybe not, but it's a great book on leadership. It's by Simon Sinek. It's called Leaders Eat Last.
Yeah, I've
And
heard of it.
that's
Yeah.
yep. So that's a really good book to read. Nobody's reading any books right now. I'm not seeing nobody's typing in here. Is nobody reading any books right now? Nobody's reading any books. Okay, well, we will have to work on change that. Okay, so Josh has one, the Everything Store. Okay, well, Jeff Bezos and the age. Okay, so Josh, you did that. Thank you for that. And I'm going to send you an email, Josh, and you can send me your mailing address, and I'll mail you a copy of Matt's book. I'm going to write your name down real quick so I can grab your email. Hi, Josh. Okay, so here's your homework. So first of all, Matt, I'm going to go back through and I'm going to show on the screen, hopefully if I can find it here. So this is the handout. I've been posting this into our chat. So this is the growth playbook, and this has each of those sections. So we just went through this. So section 1, we talked about getting to know your company. If you don't have a company, that's okay. It's getting to know you. It's the same thing. You are your own company. It's called, you corporation. So even if you don't have a corporation right now, or maybe if you're, thinking about, hey, am I thinking about going out and becoming independent? Now is very important for you to do that because it's important for you to know that. So we have section 1, and that's going to go through getting to know you. So your homework is to print this off and start working on this. I want you to think about it. And then I'll be sending out when our next webinar will be, our meeting, and then hop on that. We are going to record it. And then we'll go through that first section. And then next month, we'll go through the second section, which will be your business goals. So same thing. So the idea is to be able to do this and work on this. Okay, so the next homework. So this is your homework, is to draft your mission and vision statement, and then to identify 3 core values. And so think about your company's purpose, your goals, and how you want to help your customers. And then we're going to build on these in the next session. The goal of doing these sessions, guys, is for it to be interactive. So we want you guys to come in with questions. We want you to have a discussion. to be able to help each other in this business planning. So think about that as far as what we're doing, and then we'll send a follow-up. And so as we wrap up today's session, first of all, thank you, Matt. I know when you came to me with this idea and said, "Hey, can we do this?" Like, absolutely, I love it. And I want to thank all of you for joining us and for investing your time in building a stronger foundation in your business. And so, as I said, in our next session, we're going to get into getting to know you, getting to know your company. And this is where it all begins, is defining that mission, the core values. And this step is especially critical in a constant changing market. And so, Matt, I'll let you go ahead and leave with any closing remarks. And I'm going to throw this up here.
Yeah, no, thanks for hosting, Ginger. Fantastic topic. Good time of the year to do it. Audience, small but mighty. Everyone here is committed to doing big business going forward in a year. If you are an influencer or you're talking to people who are looking to start their own company or they come with you with ideas, this is the one thing that I would encourage everyone to share with them. It makes me. Can you imagine if Apple didn't have a vision or a core value? You wouldn't know who that company is and what they're all about, or
Yeah.
Amazon or whoever it could be, right? And so it all starts with just, one of the silly sayings that I always say is every waterfall starts with a drop of rain. If you can just put pen to paper with who you are, what your vision is, and what your goals are, you're already better than 98% of the business owners out there, probably. So it's a fantastic motivation for everyone to get started.